He's Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, and I'm happy that people have caught on to just how smart Daniel is. I thought he had a great draft. He had some interesting things to say, and one of the stars for the NFL Network during the draft, the former NFL scout who joins us now. Hi, Daniel.
How you doing, Dan?
Good. Let's start grading the draft because everybody grades the draft, which I always say. Cleveland had a great draft last year, according to the grades. Most questionable first-round draft pick is?
Ooh, I'd probably say Shaq Thompson going to Carolina, and I think he's a good player, Dan. I just think if you want him, if he's your guy, why not trade back and get a little something extra like Detroit did? You're going to take Laken Tomlinson, which they could have done with their pick, but Detroit realized they were probably the only team that was going there, so they traded back, picked up a guard in Manny Ramirez and an extra pick, and then still got their guy.
I thought everybody had the opportunity to get the guy they wanted. Is that a fair assessment of the first round?
Yeah, no question. It was just a weird draft because there wasn't that pecking order, of players where it was like, okay, every team has them in this order. So man, we got to trade because we don't want to miss out on our 12th player. Well, your 12th player might have been their 40th player. So everybody just kind of had their guy, and they all just kind of landed with him.
The Redskins, I thought, reached a little bit. I didn't know why. It's tough to pass up Leonard Williams, in my opinion. But, maybe they're – and you pointed this out. Bill Callahan, who was with the Cowboys last year when they drafted Zach Martin, you build that offensive line, you have your running game, you protect RG3, but can you bypass Leonard Williams?
I couldn't. And my problem with it is a couple things. Number one, I don't think Brandon Sheriff is Zach Martin. I thought when you watch him on college tape that Zach Martin was a little bit more agile to the point where you would debate whether or not he was going to play tackle. To me, Sheriff has to play guard. And the question I would pose is, I just talked about Detroit. They got Laken Tomlinson, who's played guard his whole career, who goes to the Senior Bowl and does a great job there against Danny Shelton, who's a really good football player. And so they trade back, get an extra pick, an extra player, and I don't know if I could say with certainty that Brandon Sheriff is any more likely to be a Pro Bowl guard than Laken Tomlinson, who they got at the bottom of the first round.
Why don't the Redskins know that?
Well, some of it, I think, look, I've been in the draft room where you're trying to change the culture, change the identity of your football team, and Scott McCloughan's coming in there, and they want to be a tough, nasty team. So sometimes you say, okay, this maybe we could find a little bit better player, but this is kind of an identity pick for us, that we're going to be a physical smash mouth team, and that's what Sheriff does. I mean, he is a really, really a mauling run blocker, and that's the kind of identity I guess they're going for. And the other thing I would say, Dan, is that we're not privy to the medical evaluation that these guys have, and I know Leonard Williams had some injuries, so maybe that was a concern for them there.
I like what Jacksonville did. Once again, I'm not going to grade what they did. I just from the outside looking in, I like what Jacksonville's going to be a stud team here soon. I get that feeling. If it's they might be 2 years away, but they're going to be a damn good team.
The interesting thing, Dan, is that when they struggled and they had several years of bad drafts, they were trying to create things. Matt Jones, we're going to draft Matt Jones, a quarterback, and we're going to make him a wide receiver. They went and got a ton of small school players, and they were just kind of rolling the dice. I mean, this year, when you look at their draft, Fowler from Florida, Yeldon from Alabama, A.J. Cann from South Carolina, Sample from Louisville, Green from Florida State, Michael Bennett from Ohio State. These are name-brand players from name-brand programs, 3- and 4-year starters. I mean, I think they know exactly what they're buying, and I thought they had a fantastic draft.
I think the Bengals did too. Once again, from the outside looking in, they got guys who are going to play right away.
I agree with you, and it was funny because I've told you many times I hate mock drafts, and with the Bengals, I sat there and I said, okay, I think they're going to take Obui, the tackle from Texas A&M, or they're going to take Jake Fisher, the tackle from Oregon. God, I didn't know, I flip-flop back and forth. I don't even remember which one I ended up going with. Well, they got Obui in the first round. They got Fisher in the second. They ended up getting both of them.
Explain to me Collins with LSU, La'el Collins. What happened? What options does he have?
Well, I think he's just going to have to, the way I understand it when I was reading this morning, is that, he's going to try and get his name cleared here with his paternity test and to get the police to completely eliminate him as a suspect. And I think that'll probably, allow the teams to feel more comfortable with his situation. But he's going to be under the rookie pool, the rookie salary pool. So he's not going to. I mean, he lost a ton of money. I mean, there was talk early on he was going to try and re-enter the draft. Well, you can't do that. You go undrafted now. You're a free agent as a free agent as a free agent. So yeah, it's a unique situation. I've never seen anything like it. There's a lot of people that really, really thought highly of him as a player, but all the teams I talked to said the same thing. The last thing you want to do is sign a player on Monday and find out he's involved in a murder investigation on a Tuesday.
Is this because of what happened with Aaron? If Aaron Hernandez does not happen, is Collins drafted?
That's a great question. Maybe a team would have been more likely because it would have just been so outlandish. Like, how could this guy really be involved in a murder? How could this really happen? And maybe you say, okay, we've penalized him for 3 rounds, and now it's the 4th or 5th round. Let's just, what do we got to lose? And it's very minimal chance. But we've seen, an organization's name be kind of, dragged through a long court proceeding and a guilty verdict. And I don't know how that can affect you if you're a team.
Did Tennessee have to talk themselves into Marcus Mariota?
I got the sense, Dan, that they liked him, but there was some of that. The more they were around him and the more they studied him, the more they, I guess there's different ways of phrasing it. The more they fell in love with him, or the more they talked themselves into him, But I definitely think from where they were at the beginning of the process to the end of the process, they covered some ground.
Do you like that pick for them?
He's not I like the pick for the organization because they're desperate. They're desperate for something there, for a face of their team, and they got that. I don't love the fit with Ken Wisenhunt with his traditional offense that he's run. Now, it's going to be a challenge for him. Let's see, what Ken Wisenhunt does, because I don't think he just, goes to the secretary and says, all right, just print out another playbook and let's go play. I mean, he's got to change some plays in that thing.
The Jameis Winston marriage with Tampa Bay, take everything else out but just him playing football there for what they do, how they do it, and I don't know if you agree with this. I think Winston is very good to start. I think Mariota has a chance to be very good later.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what you see, I think Winston's going to be closer to what he can become early on, whereas Mariota has a lot of ground to cover. I mean, he could, he has a lot of room to improve, and there's a lot of options you can do with him. But in terms of coming in day one, it's kind of interesting because if you could take Tennessee's offensive line and put it together with Tampa's wide receivers, one of these guys would have a great chance to have a great rookie year.
Who's the top pick next year?
Whoa, Dan, it's killing me. You know what? There's 3 quarterbacks from the Big Ten, and I haven't done hardly any work on them. But I'll say this: I'm excited, and when I say excited, I mean like 2 months from now, excited to watch. Hackenberg from Penn State. You got Cardale Jones get some more starts at Ohio State, and you got Connor Cook at Michigan State. So the Big Ten, coming off a national championship, I think there'll be a lot of draft eyes on them next year.
But who is drafting number 1 next year, Daniel?
Oh, who's picking number 1?
Yeah.
Ooh, Dan, that's a good one. Safe bet. Well, but you could always fall back on either the Raiders or the Jets, right, Dan? I mean, the Jets are loaded, so I can't say them. So I guess I'll say, I'll just say the Raiders. That seems like it's always a safe. At least I'll be in the top 7.
Yeah, but would you take these quarterbacks over Derek Carr?
I haven't done enough work on them. Look, the Raiders did. The Raiders. I thought they did a good job.
I like what the Raiders did.
I mean, you got your quarterbacks some help. Amari Cooper, Clive Walford, the tight end. You've got some young players.
The Raiders don't. The Raiders don't have the number 1 pick next year.
No, but it's like, who's going to suck next year, Dan? That's a tough question to ask right now.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right, Dan. I'll think about it. I'll get you an answer next time.
All right, I appreciate that. Daniel Jeremiah, the NFL Network.